Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. By the immense grace of Bhagavan Ramana, we have gathered today for an online sharing with Michael James, to whom Bhagavan is very dear, and therefore who is very dear to Bhagavan. I remember Bhagavan saying, if Kitty remembers Bhagavan, Bhagavan will remember Kitty. Although it's mysterious how the love of Bhagavan works, but certainly we know that Michael James is 24/7 absorbed in the thought of Bhagavan, in the presence of Bhagavan, and therefore it's a great blessing for us to have his sharing today in Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning's online national, international celebration, the seminar, the 44th seminar. And this seminar is on the theme Ramananjali 40+. It is dwelling on the compositions, the works of Bhagavan, and the works on him by poet saints like Muni, Muruganar, Sadhu Om, and many others. And today we have the privilege of hearing Michael James on Sadhu Om's compositions. I think it is a very special sharing that he is doing for us, because he did tell me that he has been dwelling on the teachings of Sadhu Om, which is essentially the teachings of Bhagavan. But it's a great joy for us that he is going to dwell on the compositions of Sadhu Om, which are very dear to us and Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, because we've been blessed by Swami himself to take forward these compositions in the musical format, and we have found great inspiration in the singing and thereby imbibing of these compositions in many formats. So I hand over to Michael James to continue with the sharing.
Namaskaram. First I should say that I feel I am not adequately qualified to do justice to Sadhu Om songs. Though I have the great good fortune of being with him for more than 8 years, and though some of his songs I'm familiar with, because of my limited knowledge of Tamil and my complete lack of any knowledge of music or of literary, that is of Tamil literature, if I was better qualified, I could perhaps come closer to doing justice to his songs, but I will do the best I can. Though I don't have such a deep knowledge of his songs, as I say, I did have the good fortune of being with Sadhu Om for more than 8 years, the final 8 years of his life, his bodily life. And I cannot express in words how much I learned from him. The most important thing I learned from him was love for Bhagavan, because he had such all-consuming, wholehearted, complete love for Bhagavan, but his love was infectious. It wasn't possible to be with him without being infected by his intense love for Bhagavan, his wholehearted, one-pointed love for Bhagavan. So that's the greatest treasure I gained from him. And the other thing is, because of his very deep and clear understanding of Bhagavan, and he enabled me to understand Bhagavan's teachings far more deeply than I could have understood from English books, and as the available English books in those days. And because I was interested in understanding the original works of Bhagavan, I assisted him in translating many works into English. We started off with Guruvachaka Kavai and then other works of Bhagavan. And slowly, I picked up some Tamil, some knowledge of Tamil. And now, as Dr. Sarada said, I focus mainly, if you listen to my other talks on YouTube, I focus mainly on Bhagavan's original works, particularly on verses of Arunachal Stuti Panchakam, Uladu Napadu, Upadeshundiya, Nana, and other original works of Bhagavan, like Ekama Panchakam and Amma Vide. These original works are my main source of the main source I draw upon, because Bhagavan wrote relatively little, but in the little he did write is packed with so much meaning. And though, for example, I very much appreciate the value of Guruvachaka Kavai, that is more than 1,200 verses. I cannot remember those. I don't have such good memory. But verses of Uladu Napadu, Upadeshundiya, all the paragraphs of Nana, many of the verses of Arunachal Stuti Panchakam, because I dwell on them so much, I'm able to talk about them with great ease, because I've imbibed them so much. So this is why I focus on Bhagavan's teachings. But I know the literary legacy left by Sadhu Om is of tremendous value. But I'm a bit like a dog with a coconut. Though I know it's of great value, I'm not able to access it. I possibly could if I were to focus on that, but because I focus mainly on Bhagavan's original writings, I haven't really attempted to crack this coconut. But I will I'll try a little today. First, I'll say a little about Sadhu Om. Sadhu Om was much younger than Murugan and other very close devotees of Bhagavan, Nathanananda and others. So he came relatively late in Bhagavan's life. He came, I think it was if I remember correctly, the date was June the 7th, 1946. I may not be quite correct there. I think it's mentioned in Day by Day. His name at that time was Natarajan, and Devaraja Mudliya refers to him and his singing songs for Bhagavan in a few places in Day by Day. So that was in the last 4 years or so of Bhagavan's life. But he did spend most of those 4 years. That is, he couldn't immediately come and settle in Tiruvannamalai, but soon after coming to Bhagavan, he settled in Tiruvannamalai. So he was living in Palakottu. So he spent those 4 years, the final 4 years of Bhagavan's life in Tiruvannamalai. From a very young age, he had a natural poetic gift. And he loved Tamil devotional literature, so he was familiar with a lot of Tamil devotional literature. But he wasn't. All his learning was from his own interest. At school, I think he went up to what I think in those days was called matriculation. It was sort of before going on to college, but he never went to college because of. But after leaving school, he had to work, so he wasn't. Whereas Mudugana was a great scholar in Tamil. I mean, besides being a very great poet, he was also a great scholar in Tamil. Sadhu Om didn't have that formal training in Tamil literature. But for example, he told me about the Vemba meter. He said long before he learned the rules of Vemba meter, he was able to compose Vembas because having read many Vembas, he was able to recognize the patterns without actually working out what the rules were. Later on, he came to know the rules, but he was able to. So he just had that natural poetic gift. The day before he came to Bhagavan, there happened to be some talk in Bhagavan's hall about the standard of Tamil education in what was then the present day. And some devotees were saying nowadays the standard of education in Tamil, I mean, if everyone wants to learn English, because English was if you want to get a good job, you needed to know English. So everyone was very keen on learning English, and people tended to neglect study of Tamil. So the devotees were saying among themselves, the standard of education of Tamil has fallen so low, we can't expect to see nowadays great poets like Murugan or the poets of ancient times. And as this conversation was going on, at one point Bhagavan interjected and said, for the divinely inspired poet, education isn't necessary. Jnana Sambandha was a small boy when he started composing songs on Lord Shiva. So he had no education, but because of the grace of the Lord, he was able to sing. Likewise, Aranagiriya, before his transformation, he led a life of debauchery. He wasn't interested in education or anything. He was just interested in enjoying himself, leading a life of debauchery, until the Lord Murugan brought about a change in his life, and disgusted with his former way of life, he wanted to throw himself from the tower. And when he threw himself, he was caught by Lord Murugan, who told him first Sumeru and then told him to sing. So he had no education before that. So the real, Bhagavan said, the truly great poets, they are great poets not because of any education that they may or may not have had. It is purely by divine grace. It's only by divine grace that the real talent can come. So Bhagavan said, even nowadays, there will be people like this. And the next day, Sadhu Om happened to come there. And on his way, he composed some songs. I think, I'm just trying to remember what's Quilo de Coral was one of them, in which he was, that's a song in which he's asking a cuckoo bird to go and carry his message to Bhagavan. And I've forgotten, there was one other one. Anyway, there were two songs he composed on the way that he sang when he came to Bhagavan. And after singing these songs, Bhagavan asked, have you shown these to Murugan? So Sadhu Om said, who's Murugan? Because he didn't know. And Bhagavan said, he lives there in Palakottu. And then Sadhu Om said, where's Palakottu? And Bhagavan said, it's out the back of the ashram. If you go to the back gate and walk along the dry stream bed, you come to Palakottu. Then afterwards, Sadhu Om thought to himself, what a fool I was. I could have asked anyone to ask Bhagavan such mundane questions as where's Palakottu. He felt very foolish after that. But anyway, on the prompting of Bhagavan, he went to Palakottu and he showed his verses to Murugan. And later, when Murugan came to the hall, Bhagavan said to him, see, just yesterday we were talking just yesterday. Today, a very good example of what we were talking about has come. So one significance of this story, apart from the obvious one, but Bhagavan was indicating that he was such a divinely inspired poet. The other one was, but from the very first day he came to Bhagavan, Bhagavan forged a friendship between him and Murugan. And that friendship that was forged that day remained with them throughout, till the end of their lives. They were very, very close to each other, Murugan and Sadhu Om, and Sadhu Om was able to help Murugan in so many ways in preserving thousands and thousands and thousands of his compositions on Bhagavan and editing them and everything. So it was a very close and deep friendship that was forged between Murugan and Bhagavan and Sadhu Om on the very day Sadhu Om came to Bhagavan. So now I'll begin to talk a little bit about Sadhu Om's compositions. Sadhu Om was multi-talented. He had this natural gift of poetry, and he was also very talented in music. He could sing, and because of his musical talent, the musical aspect of his song. For instance, Murugan, though he knew what pun each song should be sung on, he himself couldn't sing. But in the case of Sadhu Om, he had that musical talent. He had no formal musical training, but there was a devotee of Bhagavan living in a town called Kanapa. He was blind from birth, and he was a very talented musician. And with his help, Sadhu Om learned a lot of the formal rules of music from Kanapa. And Kanapa is a person who is very little known to the world. He was an extremely talented musician, but having that handicap of being born blind from birth, he was never able to. His talent was not known to the wider world, and he always had a desire that he would be able to train someone who would become a great singer, but he never had that fortune. But he was compensated by helping Sadhu Om to compose so many songs. And there's one nice story that Sadhu Om often used to tell about Kanapa. When he was young, Bhagavan was living on the hill, and whenever he had the opportunity, whenever he could find a friend who would take him, he would like to go and visit Bhagavan. One day when Bhagavan was living in Skandashram, a friend of Kanapa accompanied him up the hill. But whereas other friends knew, but when they come there, they would have to indicate to Kanapa where Bhagavan is sitting so that he knows where to prostrate. Because if Bhagavan was silent, Kanapa wouldn't know where Bhagavan is sitting. That day, the friend who accompanied him forgot to point out where Bhagavan is sitting. So Kanapa, he guessed where Bhagavan is sitting, and he prostrated. But Bhagavan wasn't sitting there. He was prostrating in the wrong direction. So others who were sitting there laughed. And then Bhagavan said, wherever you prostrate, I am there. So Kanapa always considered that was the greatest blessing he had from Bhagavan. But he knew wherever he did namaskaram, Bhagavan would be there receiving his namaskaram. So I just wanted to say that because Kanapa did a very, very great service in helping Sadhu Om with particularly composing the Varnams and many of the Kirtanas. That is, of course, the composition was done by Sadhu Om, but the musical side of it, he was due to the training and assistance of Kanapa. So Sadhu Om's songs are extremely varied. That is, from a musical angle, he composed Varnams, Kirtanams, and all the most difficult types of, from a musical angle, most difficult types of songs. From a Tamil literary aspect, a huge variety of songs he sang. He sang songs he sang Sandapaka, which are in the same type of meters of the songs of Tirupal, sung by Aranagiriya. He sang, as I say, Kirtanams, Varnams. He sang all variety of literary songs. He even composed many, I'll tell a little bit more about this later, how this came about, but he also composed melisai, that is light music that's doesn't formally fit any raga or tala, and he composed those on on the tunes of popular cinema songs. How he came to do so, I'll tell in a little while. So there's a very broad range of different types of songs that sang. But the common theme is all his songs is Bhagavan and Arunachala. The many of his songs were sung on the greatness of Bhagavan's name. So I will start with, there are very many songs like this. I'll start with talking about one particular song, Sri Ramana Namame. This song he composed in the same meter, and it can be sung on the same tune as Upadeshasaram. Jammanasame Sera Vipadum, Kammavasane Karala Vipadum. So if you would like to sing now some verses from this song, and then I'll explain the meaning. I won't go through all the verses of this song, but the verses I'm going to be talking about are 1, 2, 5, and 6.
ஜன்மநாசமே சேரவைப்பதும் கண்மவாசனை கழலவைப்பதும் ஜன்மநாசமே சேரவைப்பதும் கண்மவாசனை கழலவைப்பதும் ரமணநாமமே உண்மையாவையும் போக்கடிப்பதும் நன்மையாவதும் ரமணநாமமே ஜன்மநாசமே சேரவைப்பதும் கண்மவாசனை கழலவைப்பதும் ரமணநாமமே கோதகஞ்சதும் குணமுயர்ந்ததும் சாதனை பலம் தானளிப்பதும் சேதனத்ததும் சிவமயத்ததும் நாதனாவதும் ரமணநாமமே ஜன்மநாசமே சேரவைப்பதும் கண்மவாசனை கழலவைப்பதும் ரமணநாமமே அத்தஞானதும் அருணமாமலை சித்தனானதும் தெய்வமானதும் முக்தியானதும் மோனமும் நவரத்னமானதும் ரமணநாமமே ஜன்மநாசமே சேரவைப்பதும் கண்மவாசனை கழலவைப்பதும் ரமணநாமமே ரமணநாமமே ரமணநாமமே.
I will just talk about the meaning of a few of these verses. In the first verse, I will go through it line by line. Janmanasame Sera Vepadum. What causes the destruction of birth to be achieved? Karma Vasane Karala Vepadum. What causes karma vasanas to slip off or be dispersed or run away? Punmayavadum Pokaripadum. What dispels all badness, lowness, or affliction? Nanmayavadum Sri Ramana Namame. What brings about goodness is only the name of Ramana. In the verse, the eight final words are Ramana Namame. Often when Sadhu Om sang it, he would add in there Sri Ramana Namame, but it can be sung either way. So he's listing here what causes the destruction of birth, what causes the karma vasanas to slip off, what dispels all badness, what brings about goodness. All that is only the name of Sri Ramana. That is, by the name of Sri Ramana, all these things will be achieved. And then in the second verse, Malamaripadum, what destroys impurity. Manamaripadum, what destroys the mind. Valamalipadum, what gives strength. Varamalipadum, what gives boon. That implies the boon of egolessness. Sola vinipadum, what is sweet to say. Sukhamalipadum, what gives happiness. Nalamalipadum, what bestows what is good. All that is only the name of Sri Ramana, Sri Ramana Namame. And in verse 5, Didamalipadum, what gives certainty. Certainty or firmness or strength or courage. That Didam has a range of meanings. Tiruvalipadum, what gives divinity or wealth. If it's taken in the sense of wealth, it means the wealth of grace. Udan irupadum, what is immanent, what is ever present, always with one, always with us. Olivila tua adavi suttu ahamaham endru ambarul nadadum abadum Sri Ramana Namame. Burning the forest of unceasing suffering, what dances as ahamaham, I am I, in the heart of devotees is only the name of Sri Ramana. And verse 6, Andru Malayan Ayara Nindradum. What stood then, implying what stood as a column of fire, referring to Arunachala, when Brahma and Vishnu forgot him, Vendru Mayaye Vidu Alipadum, vanquishing Maya, what gives liberation. Kandriyan Tai Ena Karane Savadum, what bestows compassion like the mother of a calf. Nandru Nandru Nam Sri Ramana Namame. What is good, good is only the name of our Sri Ramana. So like this, all the verses, he's describing the benefits of keeping the name Sri Ramana ever singing in our heart, keeping this name close to our heart. These are all the benefits, that everything good is given if we treasure this name Ramana in our heart. Another theme that is present in many of the songs is Arunachala. That is because our Guru is Bhagavan, and because Bhagavan's Guru and God was Arunachala, for all Bhagavan's devotees, Arunachala is extremely dear. and that love for Arunachala is expressed in so many of the songs of Sadhu Om. One such song is Arunachala Te Parai. Would you like to sing some of the verses of it?
Yes.
அம்மா அம்மா அருணாச்சலத்தை பாராய் சும்மாயிருக்குதே அது போல மந்துள்ள செய்யாதிருக்க ஆசை பெருக்குதே அம்மா அருணாச்சலத்தை பாராய் சும்மாயிருக்குதே அது போல மந்துள்ள செய்யாதிருக்க ஆசை பெருக்குதே
இம்மாத்திரத்தின் இருப்பே வலிந்திங் என்னை இழுக்குதே இம்மாத்திரத்தின் இருப்பே வலிந்திங் என்னை இழுக்குதே ஏதும் நினையாதென் போலிருவென்றென்னுள் ஒலிக்குதே ஏதும் நினையாதென் போலிருவென்றென்னுள் ஒலிக்குதே அம்மா அம்மா அருணாச்சலத்தை பாராய் சும்மா இருக்குதே அது போல மருந்துள்ள செய்யாதிருக்க ஆசை பெருக்குதே
காண காண கருத்தில் ஒடுங்கி கண்கள் நிலைக்குதே கண்கள் நிலைக்குதே கண்கள் நிலைக்குதே கல்லென்றுயிரை கவரும் காந்த கவர்ச்சி பலிக்குதே ஆணை பெண்ணை அனைவருள்ளமும் அபகரிக்குதே ஆணை பெண்ணை அனைவருள்ளமும் அபகரிக்குதே ஆசை அளிக்கும் ஆசை பெருக்கி அமைதி அளிக்குதே உலகாசை அழிக்கும் ஆசை பெருக்கி அமைதி அளிக்குதே அம்மா அம்மா அருணாச்சலத்தை பாராய் சும்மாயிருக்குதே அது போல மந்துள்ள செய்யாதிருக்க ஆசை பெருக்குதே
உள்ளம் கவர்ந்த கள்வன் ரமணன் ஒளிந்தங்குள்ளானோ ரமணன் ஒளிந்தங்குள்ளானோ உச்சி சிகர வடிவாய் ஒளிரும் ஒற்றை கண்ணனோ மெல்ல நகைக்கும் வெற்புரு ரமணன் வெளியில் வாரானோ ரமணன் வெளியில் வாரானோ ரமணன் வெளியில் வாரானோ விலகாதெந்தன் விழியை கவர்ந்த வேந்தன் நானானோ அம்மா அம்மா அருணாச்சலத்தை பாராய் சும்மா இருக்குதே அது போல மருந்துள்ள செய்யாதிருக்க ஆசை பெருக்குதே அம்மா அருணாச்சலத்தை பாராய்.
The first word of this song, Amma, it can be taken in either or both of two senses. That is, Amma, it can be addressing a lady, mother, as mother. Amma is also an exclamation of joy and of wonder. So it has both meanings we can take here. Amma Arunachala Te Parai, Amma Si Arunachala, Summa Irukudei. It just is. Just is means it is. It implies it is. It is motionless. It is still. It is silent. It is doing nothing. It is just being. Adu pol amundul aseyadu irika ase perukude. It increases in me the desire to be without moving, resting within as it is. So it is silent, and it increases in us the desire to be just like that, just to be without any action, without any movement. In Martiratin Irupe, the mere existence of this great hill, Valendu Ingu Ene Irika, forcibly draws me here. Edum Nidayadu En Pol Iru, Endru Enul Olikude. It rings within me. Be like me, thinking nothing. Amma Siaranachala. And then the second verse, Kana Kana Karutinul Odungi Kangal Nilikude. As I see or look at it more and more, the mind subsides or shrinks within, and the eyes become firmly fixed on it. Verum Kal Andrew, Vire Kavarum Kantum Kavachi Balikude. It is not a mere stone. Its magnetic attraction, which captures the soul, flourishes. That is, it's abundant in that power of magnetic attraction that draws us all to it, is the implication. Arne penne aneva ulamum aparikude. It steals away the heart or mind of all, both men and women alike. Ulaha ase aricum ase peruki amedi alikude. Increasing the desire to lose worldly desires, or to destroy worldly desires, it bestows peace. Amma Siaranachala. And the third verse, Ulam Kavanda Kalvan Ramanan Olindu Angu Ullano. Is Ramana, the thief who attracted and stole my heart, hiding there? Uchi Sikara Vadivai Olirum Otre Kannano. Is he the one with just one eye, which shines as in the form of the peak? That is, when we look at Bhagavan, whether a picture, whether in when he was physically present, or even now when we look at his picture, what attracts us most and what we look at is his eyes, because so much love and compassion is there in the eyes of Bhagavan. The eye of Arunachala is the peak of Arunachala. He's comparing the peak of Arunachala to the eyes of Bhagavan. Just that Bhagavan's eyes are welling with love and compassion and clarity. The peak of Arunachala is shining with such love and compassion in the eyes of devotees. Mella Nahikum Vepu Uru Ramana Velil Varayo. Will not Ramana, who gently smiles at me in the form of this hill, come out? That is for Sadhuam, and for any true devotee of Bhagavan, Bhagavan and Arunachala are one. Bhagavan in the form of a hill is Arunachala. Arunachala in human form is Bhagavan. They are one and the same, just two forms for the one sweet Lord whom we all love. Vilika du Endran Viriye Kavanda Vendan Anano. Is he not the Lord who attracted and stole away my eyes, lest they move away from him? Amma Siaranachala. And then the next verse, he gives a beautiful analogy. Vilake sutrum victil ayara vidamai adiene vetre sutrum veke pongi mainmail eruvene. Just as a moth untiringly goes round the flame of a lamp, I, the slave, Adiane, rise more and more with the surging desire to go round this hill. Vilakil Vindu of Victil Madium Vidamai Manum Tane Vinnon Arunachala Arium. Just as the moth dies falling into the flame, my mind will be destroyed by Arunachala, the celestial Lord, who shines as a flame of jnana. There ondrum ariane. I do not know anything else. That is, I know nothing but just that powerful attraction of Arunachala, which is drawing me to go round more and more, like the moth going round the flame of a lamp. And that is one meaning. And another implied meaning is, by the final sentence, there ondrum ariene, I do not know anything else. It can also perhaps imply, I do not know any other means of salvation, or a means by which I can eradicate this ego. So for me, going round and round Arunachala, that is my refuge, the way Bhagavan has shown to eradicate this ego. And then the fifth and final verse, he begins with, these are words that Bhagavan himself sang. There's a verse that Bhagavan wrote under a picture of Arunachala. Karuna Navamai Karidakatinal Arunachala Shiva Midam. This is Arunachala Shiva, which, being the ocean of compassion, gives liberation when thought of. So those words, Karudakatinal Arunachalan, the words of Bhagavan are the opening words of this verse. Karudakati Nalhu Arunachalan, it Kadavalaku Ire Arne. I have become a prey to this god Arunachala, who bestows liberation on those who think of him. Karmam Kiralum, Kavale Karalum, Karala Kadavene. The heap of karmas and the whirl of anxieties are forced to abandon me. Arume Porul Eku, Arunachala Sri Ramana Perumane. The most precious thing for me is only my Lord, Arunachala Sri Ramana. Avani Porulal Payanen. What is the benefit or use of the things of this world? Avanandavan nan adiene. He is the Lord and I am the slave. Amma Siaranachala. So here, the devotion to Arunachala and the devotion to Bhagavan are so seamlessly blended together. In this connection, I just wanted to say one thing. I was talking to a friend this morning, and he was talking about, he was asking, how are we to understand Murugana and Sadhuam singing so much in praise of Bhagavan? Isn't that they're praising the name and form? Isn't that Anya Bhava? And what I replied is, why even Murugana or Sadhuam? Take Bhagavan. See how Bhagavan has sung about Arunachala in Arunachala Stuti Panchakam. Bhagavan is, that is in many, many of the verses, we can interpret it in two levels, because Arunachala is both the outward form of the hill, and also, as Bhagavan says very clearly in, for example, in the second verse of Arunachala Pancharatnam, Arunachala is that which is always dancing in our heart as I. So many of the verses of Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, we can take them either as Bhagavan is talking about the form of the hill, or he's talking about that which is always shining in our heart as I, because they are one and the same thing. It is when we look outwards, as Bhagavan says in the second verse of Arunachala, Ashtakam, Nineya Nuruvena Beniye Nana Nilamise Malayanum Nilayane Nidan. When I approach thinking of you as a form, you stand as a hill on earth. That is, when our attention is turned outwards, we see all this multiplicity of names and forms. When we look inwards, then all differences disappear. When we look outwards, we see all these differences. So there is no contradiction between Anya Bhakti and Ananya Bhakti, as Bhagavan exemplified in Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, and as Murugan and Sadhom have exemplified in thousands and thousands of their songs. That is, our aim is Ananya Bhakti, as Bhagavan makes clear in verse 8 of Upadeshundya, Anya Bhavatin Avanahamahum Ananya Bhava Mayundi Para Anatim Namutumumunti Para. So our aim is, what Bhagavan is asking us to move towards, is Ananya Bhava. Ananya Bhava means meditation on what is not other, that meditation on ourself. In other words, Ananya Bhava is another way of describing Atma Vichara, self-investigation. We are turning our attention back towards ourselves is Anya Bhava. And he says there, Avanahamahum Ananya Bhava. That is the Ananya Bhava in which he is I. That is with the understanding that Bhagavan is that which is shining in our heart as I. We meditate on him as nothing other than I. That is what we're aiming towards. But so long as the mind, so long as as Vishaya Vasana still exists in our heart, our mind will be coming out again and again. And when we come out, we see names and forms, we see multiplicity, we see ourselves as a name and form. So when we see ourselves as a name and form, it's appropriate to worship Bhagavan and Arunachala, or Arunachala Ramana, let's say, in name and form. So there's no contradiction at all between the Anya Bhakti and the Ananya Bhakti. When the mind comes out, an Anya Bhakti is appropriate. That is when we experience ourselves as this person, as a small person, then God is other than ourselves, in effect. That God seems to be other than ourselves because we are limited, God is unlimited. So how can we be God? When our attention goes outwards, because when our attention goes outwards, we experience this body as I. We limit ourselves. But in order to know the true nature of God, in order to know the true nature of Bhagavan or Arunachala, we need to turn our mind within. But in order to turn our mind within, we need great love. That the focal point for that love, when we turn outward, is the name and form of Arunachala Ramana. So that is the Anya Bhava, the Anya Bhakti, is a great support to us in our cultivation of this Ananya Bhakti, which is our ultimate aim, to have love for Bhagavan as not other than ourselves. Anya Milambu Seyon, as he says in the 5th verse of Arunachala Pancharatnam, that is seeing, having love for him as not other than ourselves. That is our aim. But so long as we look outwards, he seems to be other, and it's appropriate to worship him in name and form. So there is no Bhagavan has made it so clear in so many ways. There is no contradiction between this path of Atma Vichara and worship of name and form. When our mind comes out, we cling to the name and form of Arunachala. Arunacha Ramana. And that name and form then gives us the strength and courage to turn back within. So the two go side by side. They blend into our life seamlessly. There's no contradiction at all between them. The next song I want to talk about is Unake Namaskaram. Would you like to sing?
A few verses from Unake Namaskar. Yeah.
உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உண்மை பரம்பொருளே ரமணா உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உண்மை பரம்பொருளே ரமணா மனக்கண் விளக்கேடும் மகக்கண்மணியே உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் மனக்கண் விளக்கேடும் மகக்கண்மணியே உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம்
பார்க்கும் பொழுதெல்லாம் என்னுள் இருந்தவை பார்ப்பதோடு என்னையும் பார்ப்பவனே நான் பார்க்கும் பொழுதெல்லாம் என்னுள் இருந்தவை பார்ப்பதோடு என்னையும் பார்ப்பவனே ஊக்கம் எனக்களி துய்க்கும் ரமணா உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம்
மாயுமுடலக மாயமடித்தென்னை வாழ்வித்து நான் என வாழ்பவனே மாயுமுடலக மாயமடித்தென்னை வாழ்வித்து நான் என வாழ்பவனே போயும் படிக்கென்னை உண்ணும் ரமணா உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் போயும் படிக்கென்னை உண்ணும் ரமணா உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம்
எல்லா பொழுதிலும் எல்லா இடத்திலும் எல்லாமாய் என்னுள் இருப்பவனே எல்லா பொழுதிலும் எல்லா இடத்திலும் எல்லாமாய் என்னுள் இருப்பவனே உல்லாசமாய் உள்ளுலாவும் ரமணா உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம்
எல்லா பொழுதிலும் எல்லா இடத்திலும் எல்லாமாய் என்னுள் இருப்பவனே உல்லாசமாய் உள்வுலாவும் ரமணா உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம் உனக்கே உனக்கே நமஸ்காரம்
The title of this song is Unake Namaskaram, to you alone my Namaskaram. And every verse, the last line is Unake, Unake Namaskaram, to you alone my Namaskaram. The first verse is Unake Namaskaram, Unake Namaskaram, to you alone my Namaskaram, to you alone my Namaskaram. Unme param porole Ramana, Ramana, the supreme substance for reality. Paramporo, for those who don't know Tamil, that Porol means the same as Vastu, so Paramavastu. So Satya Paramavastu is Ramana. So to him alone our Namaskaram. And then the next line, Manakan Vilikida Ahakan Maniye, Unake Unake Namaskaram. Maniye means, oh, gem. We can take it, the gem here, to mean the gem of pure awareness. So, gem of pure awareness, manakam vilikidum ahakan, who are the inner eye, but Lu means the mind eye. I means I as in the organ of sight. The inner eye, but Lu means the mind eye. Here, the inner eye means that the eye of awareness, that pure awareness, but gives light to the mind, enabling the mind to be aware of other things. So he is that inner light, the light of pure awareness, I am, but illumines the mind. So gem of pure of awareness, who are the inner eye that illumines the mind eye, unake namaskaram. To you alone, my namaskaram. And then in the next 5 verses, he talks about each of the 5 senses. In verse 2, he says, Pakum poru delam enul irundave, papadodu eneum papavane. Whatever I see, you who are the one who, being within me, along with, together with seeing them, the things I see me also. Ramana, who, ukum enuku alita, vikum Ramana, Ramana, who saved me, giving me encouragement, unake namaskaram, to you alone, my namaskaram. And likewise for each of the 5 senses, kekum poru delam enul irundave, kepadodu enkul kepabane. Whenever I hear, you who are the one who, being within me, together with hearing them, the things I hear my voice. Utum alita ene vikum Ramana, unake namaskaram. Ramana, who saved me, giving me nourishment, to you alone, my namaskaram. The next verse, Muharum porudellam enul irindu, ave muhavatodu enne muhavane. Whenever I smell, you who are the one who, being within me, along with smelling them, the things I smell me. Uhanda per imber per ambinal vikum Ramana unake namaskaram. Ramana, who saved me by your pleasing or satisfying supreme love, to you alone, my namaskaram. Suvekum porudellam enul irundave, suve padod enne suve babane. Whenever I taste, you who are the one who, being within me, along with tasting them, the things I taste me, uvakum karanayal, vikum Ramana, unake namaskaram. Ramana, who saved me by your delightful grace, to you alone, my namaskaram. Totidum podellam enul irundave, totu arindu ene totu babane. Whenever I feel by touch, you who are the one who, being within me, along with feeling them, feel me. Utpalam itu ene vikum Ramana, unake namaskaram. Ramana, who saved me, giving me inner strength, to you alone, my namaskaram. So that's gone through all the 5 senses. Then the next verse 7, enuvedellam arindu ennul enna or ennumiladu ene ennu babane. Knowing within me all that I think, you who are the one who, without thinking, think of me, so that I may be without a thought to think. Unuvadu enne uhanda Ramana. Ramana, who enjoy feeding on me, unake namaskaram. To you alone, my namaskaram. And verse 8, Aribave yabum arindu en ahatu enne arindu varu endrum amabhavane. Knowing all that is known by me, you who are the one who is always seated in my heart in such a way that you know me, or it could mean in such a way that I know myself. It can be taken either way. Urum tuya indriye vikam Ramana. Ramana, who saved me without any suffering being experienced by me. Unake namaskaram. To you alone, my namaskaram. To you alone, my namaskaram. And verse 9, Tungum porudu ennul tukum kanavum en totrumum kandu tulungu bhavane. Seeing my sleep, dream, and my appearance in waking, you who are the one who shines within me, even when I sleep, Ongum Arivoli Wikum Ramana. Ramana, who saved me by your surging light of pure awareness. Unake namaskaram. To you alone, my namaskaram. Verse 10, Mayum udul aham mayum aritu. Destroying the delusion, I am the mortal body. Ene vaviptu, you who have one who live within me, nanena, as I, Ene vaviptu, nanena barbane, you who are the one who live in me as I, making me live, or giving me life, oyum padike ene unnum Ramana. Ramana, who feed on me so that I may cease. In other words, so that I may cease to exist as anything other than you. Unake namaskaram. To you alone, my namaskaram. And then he summarized everything in the last verse, verse 11. Ella porodilum. In all times, Ella vidatilalum, in all places, Elamai, as all things, Ennul irupavane, you who are the one who exists within me, in all times, in all places, and as all things, Ulasumai Ulavum Ramana. Ramana, who joyfully stroll within me, Unake namaskaram. To you alone, my namaskaram. So this song, it has a very, very deep meaning, because that is in these verses, Bhagavan, as Sadhu Om is pointing out, but Bhagavan is that which is ever shining in our heart as I. He's there, he's knowing everything that we see, everything that we hear, everything that we taste. He knows all our thoughts, and he's saving us by his tremendous grace, by drawing our mind within. So this is a beautiful song. What does namaskaram mean? Namaskaram means bowing down. It symbolizes complete surrender. So we surrender to Ramana, who is that which is ever shining in our heart. He's shining in all times, in all places, and as all things, and within ourselves he is shining as I. That is the Ramana to whom we do our namaskaram. That is, to him alone our namaskaram. Who else is worthy of our namaskaram? So it's a very beautiful, beautiful song. The next song, I don't know if you're familiar with this. Are you familiar with the song Varamondru Ramane Santandan? If not...
Yes. Yes, a little bit. Maybe we can sing the Pallavi of that song.
Okay.
வரமொன்று ரமணேசன் தந்தான் வாழ்வில் தானாக வரமொன்று ரமணேசன் தந்தான் வாழ்வில் கிளர்கின்ற நடமாடி விட்டான் உள்ளம் கிளர்கின்ற நடமாடி விட்டான் வேறு கதியின்றி பதியாகி விட்டான் வேறு கதியின்றி பதியாகி விட்டான் வரமொன்று ரமணேசன் தந்தான் வாழ்வில் தானாக வரமொன்று ரமணேசன் தந்தான் வாழ்வில்.
As I mentioned earlier, Sadhu Om sang many songs on the tunes of what were in those days popular Tamil cinema songs. How he came to compose these songs, some people wonder. He was a sadhu. How did he know all these cinema songs? There is a story behind it. That is, between from 1955 up to sometime, I'm not sure, about 62 or 63 or 64, around that time, Sadhu Om was living in the ashram. And while he was living in the ashram, he was doing all sorts of service in the ashram. The main thing he was doing was he was helping with all literary work, all literary to do with the publication of Tamil books. He was helping with all the editing and proofreading and all that type of work he was doing. He also assisted the doctor in the ashram dispensary. He was trained by the doctor as a compounder, so he was helping in that way in the ashram dispensary. And another thing he used to do every day, in the morning, he used to pluck flowers in the flower garden for making garlands for Bhagavan Shrine. And he would be accompanied by the Veda Pathasala boys. And while plucking the flowers, the Veda Pathasala boys would be singing the latest popular songs. They didn't often get to go to the cinema. For them, going to the cinema was a treat. But even if they hadn't seen the films, they'd have heard the songs. And so they used to like to sing the popular songs. So Sadhu Om said to them, why are you singing these songs when we are plucking flowers for Bhagavan Shrine? Wouldn't it be more appropriate to sing songs on Bhagavan? And they said, yes, that would be nice, but these are such nice songs, such nice tunes. So Sadhu Om said, okay, if I sing songs, if I compose songs on Bhagavan on these tunes, will you sing them? And they said, yes. So this is why Sadhu Om sang. Whenever they heard a new tune, they would sing the song to Sadhu Om, and he would then compose a song on Bhagavan on that tune. Because many of the cinema songs are not according to the formal rules of classical music. They don't fit any particular raga or tala. Most of those songs are printed in Ramana Geetam as melise, that is, as light music. They're not formal. They don't have formal musical qualities. But this particular song, it does follow a proper raga and tala. This song, there was a song that came out around about 1960 in some film. The song was Tuilada Penondru Kandane. I've seen a girl who doesn't sleep. I have no idea what that song was about or what the film was about. But anyway, on that tune, Sadhu Om sang this song. Varumondru Ramane Santandan. Varvil Tanaha Varamondru Ramane Santandan. That means Varamondru Ramane Santandan, one boon Lord Ramana gave. Varvil Tanaha Varamondru Ramane Santandan. In life, of his own accord, one boon Lord Ramana gave. The word Tanaha it can be taken to mean of his own accord. It can also be taken to mean to become himself. That is, to become himself, he gave a boon. That the boon of becoming himself, that is one meaning. It can also mean to be myself, to be as I actually am. So we can take it in any way we like. So that is the boon that Ramana gave. The boon of becoming one with him, of being what we actually are. And then in the first verse he says, Urumunda Ariyame Mara, for the dense ignorance to be rectified, cured, or corrected. In the Ulahungal Kanavahatira, for all these worlds to cease, or to leave, or to vanish as a dream. Naramandru Nan Endru Bodum Kandu Nadunindra Var Endru Soli, saying, see that the awareness I is not the person or the human body, live standing in the center. Live standing in the center means abide in the heart, remain in the heart, because that is the center of all things. Saying thus, one boon Lord Ramana gave. He doesn't say gave me, but it's implied gave me. The second verse, Yadondrum Ariada Enne, Tanaku al Endru Kondu Etru Pinne. After accepting me, who did not know anything at all, taking me as a slave for himself, Eidondru Ilamul Veitan. He kept me, this can be taken in two ways. He kept me without anything at all, or he made me be nothing at all. Nan en endru pen idei tan. What can I say about this? Implying, what can I say about this wonder? One boon Lord Ramana gave me. And verse 3 is, Kanara Manamara Kandain. I have seen him to the utmost contentment of my mind and eyes. Ene careseracum kalamaha condain. I took him as the lifeboat that would make me reach for shore. That means the state of liberation. Enada tuilada natil vara elidana vari ondrukati, showing me the easy way to live in the land that is without thought and without sleep. Varamondru Ramanesan Tandan, one boon Lord Ramana gave me. And the fourth and final verse, Udalendrum, Virendrum, Aidum, Pirindu, Unakindru, Urun Ila Podum. Even when I did not have the strength to distinguish what is myself and what is the body. In other words, to distinguish myself from the body, saying kida means lie down or rest, sleep, be inactive. It implies sumeru, just be. Saying kida, he fixed me at his feet. Kida endru tantalil vitan. He fixed me at his feet, saying, just be, lie down, subside, in other words. Ulum kilakindra nadum adi vitan. He then danced the dance that blossomed my heart. Verugati indri patiyahi vitan. Leaving me without any other refuge, he became my Lord. One boon, or Varamondru Ramanesan Tandan, one boon Lord Ramana gave me. This song is a little unusual because generally Sadhuam never spoke, or he absolutely never spoke, and in his songs he very, very seldom indicated that he, what Balwan, that is, what he, that is, this indirectly in this song, the implication is that Bhagavan had given him the boon of egolessness. Bhagavan had destroyed his ego. That is the implication here. It is very rare that but in Sadhuam's song, but such suggestions are there. In Muruga's songs, there are thousands and thousands of songs in which he sings about how Bhagavan's grace swallowed him. And in every possible way that it could be sung, Muruga sang it. But Sadhuam, very, very seldom does he sing that. There's one of his major works is a work called Ramana Sahasram. That's 1,000 verses, 1,000 members praying for jnana. It's called Sri Ramana Sahasram Enam Jnana Pratane, a prayer for jnana called Sri Ramana Sahasram. In one of the verses towards the end, he says, did I die or did I not die? That I don't know. That is, he's expressing it in a very beautiful way, but when finally Bhagavan swallows us, there'll be no one there to know that we've been swallowed. We will be so completely swallowed by him. So, as I say, it's quite rare for Sadhuam to give such hints about his own achievement. Most of his songs are just praise and prayer. Very, very seldom does he let out the state he had attained by Bhagavan's grace. I had prepared some other songs, but I think now I'm beginning to run out of time. So I think now it may be an appropriate time now to start with Dhyana Patu. And after that, there's one more song I want to do. So if we do Dhyana Patu now.
Yes, we can do the Dhyana.
So if you like to sing one verse, then I will explain the meaning.
Yeah.
I'll just say a little bit of introduction to this.
Sure.
This is a song. It's a Dhyana Patu. It means the meditation song. Sadhuam sang this. It's a very simple song. He sang it for children. But in it, he packed all of Bhagavan's teachings in a very, very beautiful way. That is what is the actual practice that Bhagavan has taught us. The practice of self-investigation, Atmavichara, is so beautifully explained in these verses. So.
கண்ணை மூடி அமர்ந்து கொள் கடவுள் என்று நினைந்து கொள் எண்ணிடாமல் எதையுமே இறைவன் ஒன்றே நினைந்து கொள்.
Kannai moodi amarந்து கொள். Closing your eyes, be seated. Kadavul endru நினைந்து கொள். Think of God. எண்ணிடாமல் எதையுமே இறைவன் ஒன்றே நினைந்து கொள். Without thinking of anything else at all, think of God alone.
காணும் உலகை நினைப்பதால் கடவுள் நினைவு போய்விடும் வேணும் உறுதி முதலிலே விரும்பி தியானம் பண்ணுவாய்.
By thinking of the world you see, by your thinking of the world by your thinking of the world you see, kadavul ninevu poividum, the thought of God will go away. Venum uridi mudlile, at first steadfastness is needed, virumbi janum panuvai. So do meditation with love. I'll just say a little explanation here. In these two verses, this is describing Anyabhava, meditation on God as something other than ourselves, or so it seems. But then in the next 7 verses, very gently and gradually, Sadhuam turns it from meditation on God as something other than ourselves to meditation on God as ourselves. In other words, he shifts the focus from Anyabhava to Ananyabhava. As Bhagavan does in Upadesha Undiyar, up to verse 7, Bhagavan is talking about Anyabhabam. Okay? That is worshipping God, doing japa of God's name and meditating on God as Abhavanasa. But in verse 8, Bhagavan switches it from the Anyabhava to the Ananyabhava, which is his real aim.
எந்த வடிவில் கருதிலும் அந்த வடிவில் தோன்றுவான் சொந்த வடிவம் பெயரிலா சுத்தமோன சின்மயன்.
Enda vadivil karidinum, in whatever form you think, implying think of God, under vadivil tondruva, in that form he will appear. Sonda vadivum peerila, he has no form or name of his own. Suddhamona chinmayam, he is composed of pure silent awareness.
இன்பமான ஒரு பொருள் இருக்குதுந்தன் நெஞ்சிலே அன்பு கொண்டு தேடினால் அளவில்லாத சுகமடி.
Imbamana oru porul urukudendra nenjile. One blissful substance or reality exists within your very heart. Ambu kondu tedinal, if you seek it with love, alavilada sukamadi, unlimited happiness will be yours.
எங்குமுள்ள கடவுளை இதய குகையில் காணலாம் இங்கு கண்ட பிறகுதான் இருப்பதெல்லாம் அவன் மயம்.
Engumulla kadavale idea guhel kanalam. In the cave of our heart, we can see God who exists everywhere. Ingu kanja pirutan, only after we've seen him here, irupadellam avamayam, will all that exists be seen to be him. Avamayam means consist only of him. Will everything be seen as him? So in order to see everything as God, we first need to see ourselves as God. We need to see him shining in our heart as I. When we recognize that he is that which is shining in our heart as I, when he thereby swallows us, then we will see everything as him.
எண்ணம் அறியும் சாட்சியாய் இறைவன் உன்னுள் இருக்கிறார் எண்ணம் ஓயும் இடத்திலே இறைவன் வந்து தோன்றுவார்.
This first line is a bit similar to what Sadhuam sang in Unake Namaskaram. But Bhagavan is that which is shining in our heart, knowing our every thought, and seeing whatever we see, hearing whatever we hear. So what he says here is, Ennum Ariyam Sakshiyai Irevan Unnul Irikira. God exists within you as the witness who knows your thoughts. That is, God is the light of awareness that illumines the mind and enables it to know everything else. Ennum Oinde, so very beautifully he's bringing it from very simple ideas for children, he's bringing in deeper and deeper ideas of Bhagavan's teachings. Ennum oinda idetile, only where or when all thoughts subside, Irevan bandhu tondruva, will God come and appear. So God is that which is in our heart, only when we turn within and all thoughts thereby subside, will he appear.
எண்ணம் ஓய வழியை கேள் இறைவன் ரமணன் மொழியை கேள் எண்ணம் எழும்பும் தருணமே யாருக்கு எழுவதென்று பார்.
So if he will appear only when all thoughts subside, how are thoughts to subside? That is what is said in this song. So this song is going very, very gently, step by step, closer and closer to the core of Bhagavan's teachings. Ennum oya variyekel. Listen to the path to make thoughts subside. Irevan Ramanam Moriyekel. Listen to the words of Ramana, the Lord. Ramana, that is the God we've been talking about, Irevan, is Nambata Bhagavan. So listen to the words of God, Ramana. Ennum erumbum taraname. At the very moment that the thoughts arise, Yaraku eruvidu endrupa. See to whom it arises.
எண்ணம் தனக்கு எழுவதால் இந்த நானார் என்று பார் எண்ணும் தன்னை நோக்கவே எழுந்த எண்ணம் ஓய்ந்து போம்.
So in these two verses, in 7 and 8, he's bringing it directly to Bhagavan's teachings. First he says, see to whom if a thought arises, see to whom it arises. And then in this verse he says, Ennam tanake eruvadal, since every thought rises only to oneself, in the nana indrupa, see who is this I. See who this I is. Ennam tanne no kave, when one looks at oneself who thinks, erunda ennam oindupom, but thought that had risen will subside and vanish. Why? Because thoughts can exist only so long as we attend to them. If we turn our attention back to ourselves, the thought will be deprived of our attention, so it will naturally subside. So this is the means to bring about the subsidence of all thoughts.
பார்க்க பார்க்க உன்னுளே பரமஞானம் பூக்குமே பார்க்கும் அறிவை பார்க்கவே பழகி பழகி வெற்றி கொள்.
In this verse, he stresses the importance and the need for practicing and practicing and practicing. That is, we've all come to Bhagavan, we've all learned the basic, but what we have to do is to turn within. But why is practice necessary? As Bhagavan explained, because we have Vishaya Vasanas, because our mind has strong inclination to go outwards. That is, Vasanas means inclinations. Vishaya Vasanas is inclination towards phenomena, things other than ourselves, to Vishayas. So long as we have even the slightest inclination remaining to attend to anything other than ourselves, as Bhagavan said in Nana, so long as Vishaya Vasanas exist within the mind, so long the investigation, who am I, is necessary. So that's what he's talking about here in this verse 9. Parka parka unnale. When you look within yourself, paramanyana pukame, supreme knowledge will blossom forth. But in order for that supreme knowledge to blossom forth, we have to persevere in this practice. So, parka parka unale, when you look and look. And then in the next line he said, parka marive parka be, to see the awareness that sees, parihi parihi vetrikol, practice and seize victory, be victorious by persistent practice. This is what Bhagavan emphasized so much. That is, many people expect this is going to be something very, very easy. But it is, as Bhagavan said, this is the easiest of all paths, but it requires work. It requires patient, persistent practice, because then only can we weaken our Vishaya Vasanas, and only when our Vishaya Vasanas are weakened to a considerable extent will we be willing to surrender ourselves completely to him. Until we are willing to surrender ourselves completely to him, we will not be able to go deep within, because our inclination to jump outwards will be constantly resisting our attempts to turn within. So we can succeed in this path only by practice and practice and practice. We have to go on practicing, whether it takes 10 minutes or 10 years or 10 lifetimes, doesn't matter. Bhagavan has shown us the direction we have to go in. All we have to do is to practice this path he's shown us, and victory is assured. Bhagavan has assured us in so many ways. But Bhagavan's grace is doing all that is necessary to help us. But we have to do our little bit by yielding ourselves to it. How do we yield ourselves to it? By practicing and practicing, turning within to see the awareness that sees. In other words, to see this ego that is seeing all other things. We seem to be egos so long as we're looking at other things. If we look back at ourselves, Tedina lotum pinicum. If we search for it, this ego will take flight.
கற்கும் கல்வி பலவிலும் கற்கும் கல்வி முதலிடம் நற்சிறப்பு யாவிலும் ஞான நிஷ்டை முதலிடம்.
Karkum Kalvi Palavilum, among all the sciences we learn, or among all the forms of learning, all the sciences, arts, whatever, Kadavul Kalvi Mudalidum, the science of God, or the art of God, is foremost. Nachirapuyavilum Jnananishta Mudalidum, among all the excellent distinctions, among all the great things we may achieve in this world, the greatest, what is foremost? Jnananishta. Jnananishta means remaining steadily, firmly fixed as pure awareness.
உடல் எடுத்த நோக்கமே உண்மை இன்பம் துய்க்கவே கடவுளாகி நின்றுடல் கழற்றி வீசி போகலாம்.
So what is the purpose of our life in this world? We've come to this world, we've been given this body, we know we're going to be here for just a few years, but this life isn't going to last very long. The years fly by very quickly. And we know we've seen so many going before us, and we know we're also going to go sooner or later. So what is the purpose for which we've taken this birth? That is what is answered here. Udle doko nokome, the purpose for which we've taken a birth, this body, unmeimbum tweakave, is only to enjoy true happiness. What is the happiness? As Bhagavan made clear, happiness is our real nature. But in order to experience that happiness, we need to Tande Tarnaridal Vendum, as he says in the first paragraph of Nana. It's necessary for us to know ourselves. And to know ourselves, we need to investigate ourselves. So in order to enjoy the true happiness that we actually are, we need to investigate ourselves. That is the purpose for which we've taken this body. Kaduvalahi Nindru, abiding as God, Udal Karatri Visi Pohalam, removing and casting away the body, let us go. How do we remove and cast away the body? We don't have to kill this body. Let the body be. The body is innocent. As Bhagavan said, punishing the body is like if a criminal is sitting on a chair, beating the chair isn't punishing the criminal. Who is the criminal? It is ego. So it is ego that we need to get rid of. If we eradicate this ego, we are thereby separating ourselves from this body and remaining. When we separate ourselves from the body, we remain just as God. That God is that which is ever shining in our hearts as eye, the pure awareness. So abiding as God, removing and casting away the body, let us go. That is the purpose of our life.
தெய்வம் என்பதருள்மயம் ஜகம் எல்லாம் இருள்மயம் மெய்யதென்று நாடவே விளங்கும் இந்த உண்மையே.
David Emberdarulmayam. What is called God, it consists of grace, or is full of grace. Jagam ilamum irulmayam. The entire world consists or is full only of darkness, ignorance, or delusion. Meya dendrunadbe, when you investigate what is real, vilangum indunmeye, this truth will shine clearly.
வாழ்க ரமண சத்குரு வாழ்க ஞான மார்க்கமே வாழ்க ஆன்ம சாந்தியில் வாழும் வாழ்வாழ்வே வாழ்க ரமண சத்குரு வாழ்க ரமண சத்குரு.
Varha Ramana Sadguru, may Ramana Sadguru flourish. Varha Jnana Margame, may his path of knowledge flourish. This simple path of self-investigation that we've learned here. Varha Amma Shantiyal, may life lived in the bliss of self flourish. Varum Varvu Varhave, may it definitely flourish. And then before answering questions, there's just one final last song I'd like to talk about, because it's a very beautiful and simple prayer. Unarolal Ahatum.
Yes, Naan ini illamal pogattum. Abhika will be rendering that song for us.
Yes.
நான் இனி இல்லாமல் போகட்டும், நான் இனி இல்லாமல் போகட்டும், சிவஞான ரமணனே வாழட்டும், நான் இனி இல்லாமல் போகட்டும், சிவஞான ரமணனே வாழட்டும், ஊனினை நான் என்பது ஒழியட்டும், பரவுண்மை எது உண்டோ அது ஓங்கட்டும், ஊனினை நான் என்பது ஒழியட்டும், பரவுண்மை எது உண்டோ அது ஓங்கட்டும், நான் இனி இல்லாமல் போகட்டும். அகந்தையின் குறுக்கீடே அழியட்டும், முந்தன் அருளிச்சை செங்கோலே ஆளட்டும், அகந்தையின் குறுக்கீடே அழியட்டும், முந்தன் அருளிச்சை செங்கோலே ஆளட்டும், ஜகம் கனவாகவே தீரட்டும், எல்லாம் சிற்சுக சிவமயம் ஆகட்டும், ஜகம் கனவாகவே தீரட்டும், எல்லாம் சிற்சுக சிவமயம் ஆகட்டும், நான் இனி இல்லாமல் போகட்டும். அந்நிய நாட்டமது அகலட்டும், அந்நிய நாட்டமது அகலட்டும், காடும் அனைத்தும் உன் அருள் வடிவாகட்டும், அந்நிய நாட்டமது அகலட்டும், காடும் அனைத்தும் உன் அருள் வடிவாகட்டும், தன்னியல் நீங்க அடங்கட்டும், நான் செல்வ சுதந்திரம் ஆகட்டும், நான் இனி இல்லாமல் போகட்டும், சிவஞான ரமணனே வாழட்டும், வாழட்டும்.
This song is a very simple and very beautiful prayer. As with so many of Sadhu Om's prayers, it is packed full of Bhagavan's teachings. That is what Bhagavan said we should aim for, that Sadhu Om prays for. It begins with Ahandein Kurikide Ariyatam. May the interference of ego be destroyed. What is meant by the interference of ego? The very rising of ourself as ego is interference. What we actually are is just pure, infinite, Anadi, Ananta, Akhanda, Satchidananda, as Bhagavan says in verse 28 of Upadesha. We are beginningless, Anadi means beginningless, Ananta means endless, infinite, limitless, Akhanda, unbroken, Satchidananda. That is what we actually are. All that is that ever remains as it is. What we actually are is always as it is, but it seems now that all this has been spoiled by this rising of ego. So that the rising of ego is what he starts this song by praying for the destruction of this rising of ego. May the interference of ego be destroyed. Undrun arolice sengole alatum. May the scepter of the will of your grace or your divine will alone take charge of me or rule over me. Jagam kanavaha tiratam. May the world end, cease, or vanish as a mere dream. Elam chitsukha shiva mayam ahatum. May everything become chitsukha shiva mayam. That means composed of Shiva or full of Shiva. That Shiva means it is the god Shiva, and also it means auspiciousness, goodness, benevolence. Chitsukha, the bliss of pure awareness. So may everything become Chitsukha Shiva Mayam. And then in the second verse, Unnum ennum ellam oyatum. May the rising thoughts all cease, subside or perish or come to an end. Manum un arolin vasum ahatum. May the mind come under the sway of your grace. Now our mind is under the sway of its vasanas. If we surrender ourselves completely to him, he will take charge of us. And we will then be under the sway of his grace. Enedu nan enel mayatum. May what says mine and I be annihilated. Per imber rasatinil toyatum. May I be immersed in the rasam, juice or the syrup or nectar of per imber, of abundant, intense, infinite, supreme bliss. And then verse 3, nan ini ilamul pohatum. May I now go or become non-existent. Shivanyana Ramananane Varatam. May Shiva Jnana Ramana alone live. That is, what is Ramana? He's nothing but Shiva Jnana, that infinite awareness that is called Shiva, that pure awareness that is called Shiva. That is what Ramana actually is. So may I become non-existent, and may he alone live. Unine nan embadu oriatum. May what experiences the body as I cease. Para unme echdu undo adu ongatum. Whatever is the supreme reality, may that surge or rise high or expand or be exalted or flourish. And verse 4, Anniya natum achte akalatum. May attention to what is other depart. That is, attention to anything other than ourselves, may that cease. Because what is the nature of ego? The nature of ego is to be always attending to things other than itself. That's why Bhagavan says in Nana, not attending to Anya, to what is other than ourselves, that is Vairagya. Not leaving ourselves, that is Jnana. These two are one and the same. So we need to cling to ourselves so firmly, but this attention to other things is completely removed. I'll just say one thing in this context, because there's one very beautiful Upadesha that Bhagavan once gave to, there was a very simple lady from Deso called Akilanda Maya. She was a child widow, from a very, very poor family. She, from the very, very early days of Bhagavan's stay in Tiruvannamalai, whenever she could save up a little money, she would come to Tiruvannamalai, usually along with Mastan, and she would come and serve food to Bhagavan. She was completely illiterate, uneducated, didn't know anything, but she just, she had great love for Bhagavan and she just wanted to serve Bhagavan. But she noticed but Bhagavan was often talking very lofty ideas which she couldn't understand to devotees and sometimes to visiting pundits and so on. So one day she had a desire to get some instruction from Bhagavan. So she said to Bhagavan, Bhagavan, I don't understand all that you talk to all these people, all their questions and your answers. I don't understand any of these things. Please tell me something that will be useful for me. And Bhagavan simply said, Unne vidamul iru, be without leaving yourself. That is, in 3 simple words, he summarized the whole of his teachings. So being without leaving ourself means not attending to anything other than ourself. That's why he said in Nana, not attending to anything other than ourself is Vairagya, not leaving ourself is Jnana. These two are one. So this is the aim. This is the aim. So that's why Sadhu Om prays here. Anya natum aktu aharatum. May attention to what is other than myself depart or leave or separate itself from me. Karnum anatum un arul varivahatum. May all that is seen become the form of your grace. That is, if I see myself as you, I will see everything as you. All will be of the nature of your grace. Tan il ningadu adangatum. May your okay, tanil, it can mean either may your nature settle firmly without leaving. That is, may you settle, may you be firm in my heart. It can be taken that way. Or tanil can be taken, may the real nature of myself settle firmly without leaving. In other words, may I remain firmly as I actually am, as my real nature, as Atma Swarupa. Nan Sarva Swatantrun Aratum. May I become Sarva Swatantra. Sarva Swatantra means that which is free, which is all free, independent, self-sufficient, that which is not affected by anything else. What is that? That is only Brahman. That is our real nature, Sarva Swatantran. So when he prays, may I become Sarva Swatantran, may I be that ever-liberated Brahman, that infinite reality. And then in the final verse, he says, Jiva Nadi Pravahamum Ini Chinmaya Ariel Seratum. May the flood of the river of Jiva, Jiva means ego or individuality, may the flood of that river now merge in the ocean composed of pure awareness, the Chinmaya Ari, the ocean of pure awareness. May this river of this flooding river of individuality, may that merge forever in that ocean of pure awareness. Povadum milvadum indriye, without going or returning, paripurnam ahi poliyave. May I flourish as paripurna. That is, without rising as ego, right? That daily we are rising up as ego and subsiding back into our source in sleep. Without any of that rising and subsiding, that going and returning, may I flourish as paripurna, the infinite whole. The infinite whole obviously has no coming and going. Pokum Varavimil Poduveli Inilaro Pora Tanka Tarunacha. That's what Bhagavan is referring to there. A space of pure awareness where there is no coming and going. Only in that space this warfare will be fought, the warfare of grace. That's the warfare between our vasanas and our love to turn within. Our outward going vasanas, our Vishaya vasanas and the Sat vasanas. That's what Bhagavan is referring to there. That is, so it is why is it without going and coming? Because in that space, there is no rising of ego. So without the rising of ego, there is no coming and no going. So this song is a very, very beautiful prayer. It encapsulates Bhagavan's teachings in so many ways, but all in the form of a prayer. It's not even a direct prayer to Bhagavan. It's may it happen, may it happen. Right? Implying that he's praying to Bhagavan to may all this happen. May you bring about the destruction of this interference of the ego. May you do all these things so that I may remain as I actually am, which is nothing other than you. So may I lose myself completely in you. May I surrender myself completely to you. This song encapsulates all the thousands and thousands of prayers that Sadhu Om sang to Bhagavan. They're all praying for nothing but the destruction of ego. So I've talked for a long time. I hope I kept enough time for some answering any questions.
Yes, we can. We can extend it a few minutes if there are many questions.
Yes.
Thank you. And before we go on to the questions, I would like to thank Ambika for being with us and singing some of Sadhu Om's songs, which we all enjoy and have enjoyed from our childhood, both in presence of Sadhu Om and through the years of Ramadanjali. Thank you, Ambika, for being with us. And Ujjwal, are there any questions?
Namo Ramana, we have many people watching this, sharing and enjoying it. And Pratibha from USA, she says, Sri Michael James' love for Bhagavan is as infectious as Swami Sadhu Om and Muruganar. Always a great pleasure to listen to him, Namo Ramana. And we have an in-house question from Revati. She says, we have Sadhu and Swami singing about Aham Spurana in many of his compositions, just like Bhagavan. Can you just shed some light on this Aham Spurana and how he describes it as the dance in the heart?
Aham Spurana is the light. That is what Spurana means. Spurana, in Sanskrit, the verb spur means to. It has a broad range of meanings, but the basic sense of all that is a common thread running through all the meanings of that verb is what makes itself known. So in some context, it can mean flashing. It can mean like the pulse. The movement of the pulse, the pumping, but that is not the sense in which it's used here. When Bhagavan talks about Aham Spurana, Aham is obviously not an object. So Aham Spurana is not any objective experience. It's not an object of experience. It's a quality of experience. We are always aware of ourselves as I am. But because of our interest in attending to things other than ourselves, we overlook. Just like when we go to the cinema, though we sit there for 2 or 3 hours looking only at the screen, we in effect never see the screen because we are so interested in the pictures that are appearing on the screen. We don't even notice that there's a screen there. Likewise, we are so interested in all these phenomena that are appearing and disappearing in the mind, we don't notice the background, which is this fundamental awareness I am. That is ever shining, but it is as if we are always self-aware, but we are inattentively self-aware. We are negligently self-aware. This is what is called pramada. When we begin to turn our attention back towards ourselves, we begin to experience a fresh clarity of self-awareness. That is, we begin to be aware of ourselves. We don't totally separate ourselves from the body until the final moment when ego is destroyed, but we begin to see, we begin to, in a very subtle way, the words cannot express it adequately, but we get a clarity of self-awareness. We can see, we begin to become aware of I as something distinct from this body or mind. That clarity of self-awareness is what is called Spurana. Just to give you, I don't know whether you speak Tamil, but in Tamil there's a verb which is very commonly used. If you want to say something is clear, but you understand something, enakku puriyum, it is clear to me. So that Tamil verb puri is actually a Tamil form of, in a more literary form, it's spuri, and it comes from the Sanskrit word spur, which means to be clear, to make itself known. So if something is clearly known to us, we say, Enuku puriyum, I understand it, I grasp it, it's clear to me. If it's not clear, Enuku puriyade, it's not clear to me. So that Spurana is simply talking about that clarity of self-awareness. So some people say, did some people get the idea that Aham Spurana is something we are to experience? It's not a thing. It's not an object. It is not an object of experience. It is a quality of experience. So it's a quality of awareness, of self-awareness. So that increased clarity of self-awareness is what Bhagavan means by Aham Spurana. And obviously very deeper, there are a whole range of degrees of clarity of self-awareness. So Spurana isn't one thing, but one day you achieve Spurana. As soon as we turn our attention back towards I, we begin to experience Spurana. At first, it is a fresh clarity, but it's not such a deep clarity. As we go deeper and deeper in this path, we experience Spurana more and more deeply. And eventually, that Spurana will be the light of pure awareness that will swallow us. So Bhagavan used the term Spurana both with respect to the clarity of the partial clarity of self-awareness that we get during practice, and to the complete clarity that is achieved when ego is destroyed. But in fact, in Upadesha Saram, the Sanskrit version of Upadesha Undiyar, in verse 20, when he says it shines as I am I, aham aham, or nan nan, the verb he uses in Sanskrit, in Tamil he says tondram, it appears. In Sanskrit he uses the word spurati hrit swayam. So it shines with that shining forth, that fresh clarity. That is what is meant by that Spurana is a noun form of the verb spur. So I hope that helps to make it that a little bit clearer.
Thank you, Michael G.
Bhagavan is something so unique. That is, never before had the truth been explained in such a simple and, more important, not just simple, such a practical way. That is, if you study all the ancient Advaita Sastras, what actually is the practice? They all say vichara is necessary, but what is vichara? You'll find most of those who give lectures on traditional Vedanta, they will take just all this discrimination of neti, they'll take that as vichara. Well, that's why Bhagavan says in verse 32 of verse 29, that turning within and I'll find the verse. Sorry, I'll just get the verse. And what Bhagavan says in verse 29 of Uludunapdu, not saying I by mouth, investigating by an inward sinking mind, where one rises as I, that alone is jnana neri, that alone is the path of knowledge. Instead, thinking not this, I am that, I'm not this, I am that, is an aid. But is it vichara? So Bhagavan is directly saying here, but merely understanding what we are not and meditating on what we are, that is not vichara. We need to investigate what we are. And then in verse 32, he says, when the Vedas proclaim, Aduni, you are that, instead of oneself being oneself by knowing oneself as what, in other words, what am I? Thinking I am that, not this, is due to lack of strength. What is that lack of strength? That means lack of the strength of viveka, bhakti, and vairagya. Why is it due to lack of strength? Because that alone is always seated as oneself. Since that is always shining in our heart as I, how to know it? We need to turn within and investigate it. And as he says in verse 27 of Uludunapadu, Nanu diadu ullanilai, namaduvai ullanilai. The state in which one exists without rising, without I rising, is the state in which we are that. So merely thinking I am that is not sufficient. We need to be without rising as ego. Then only we are being that. And then he says, Nan udikum tanam ade nadamo. Without investigating the place where I rises, Nanudia tan iripe savadu evan. How to reach the annihilation of oneself in which I does not rise. Saramul tan adu tan nilayil nipadu evan satru. Without reaching that state of the annihilation of oneself, how to stand in the state of oneself in which one is that. So Bhagavan has made the teachings of Vedanta so simple, so clear, and so practical. Bhagavan's teachings are all focused on the practice. That is so what Bhagavan has brought us is such a great treasure. We cannot, our mind cannot grasp the value of the treasure that Bhagavan has brought us. It is so, so great. If we want to grasp the value of that treasure, all we have to do, follow the path that he's shown us, and we'll be swallowed by that. Only when we have been swallowed by Bhagavan, Unadal Khan, becoming food is seeing, he says in verse 20 of Uludunapadu. So only when we are swallowed by him can we really understand his greatness.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for those beautiful sharings about Sadhu Om Swami especially. And I think the insight you gave us about Kannappan was very valuable. Yes. I think I do remember seeing Kannappan myself. Yes. And it was very beautiful to know about his doing the namaskaram to Bhagavan. Yes. And to be soaked in the love of Bhagavan through Sadhu Om. Yes. For this during this sharing has been a great blessing to all of us.
The beauty about Bhagavan, the teachings he gives, like what he said to Kannappa, that is an assurance to all of us. That is, whatever God we worship, that God is Bhagavan. Wherever even if we do namaskarams to a rubbish tip, Bhagavan is there. There's no place where Bhagavan is not. And what he said to Akilanda Maya, that is suitable for all of us. And one other thing I just thought of. There was one other. I mean, whatever he says, it is a place. Oh yes, what you said about what he said about Kitty. If Kitty remembers Bhagavan, Bhagavan will remember Kitty. Though it's a great blessing for Katya, but Bhagavan said that about her, it's applicable to all of us. The more we remember him, the more he, well, of course he always remembers us because he's always shining in our heart as I, but the more we will be absorbed into his grace, the more we think of him. That's why Sadhu Om sang so much about the greatness of Bhagavan's name. Because when we think of the name Ramana, who are we thinking of? We're thinking of Bhagavan himself. So the name of Bhagavan is so, so great. Just like Bhagavan has so much love for the name Arunachala Shiva, Sadhu Om, and all of us, we have so much love for the name Ramana.
So it was very beautiful that you started with the name Ramana and you went through the verse of Unake Namaskaram, which is actually a very significant song for us. We sing it at the end of every Ramananjali program. That's the finishing.
It's a really beautiful song, very, very beautiful song.
Yes. And of course, the Dhyanam song were written for children. Every one of us is a child who can benefit from that.
The whole of Bhagavan's teachings are given there in a very simple but very practical way.
Correct. So it was a very beautiful sharing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
If possible, you can look at maybe some of the other songs which you have taken up. We could have another sharing whenever time permits for you.
Give me time. The trouble
Yes. I think it's possible.
Yeah, yes.
We can do whenever you in your schedule you can manage to fit in some time. Do let us know,
Right.
and it need not necessarily be a weekend.
Yes,
It could be another day also.
yes.
If you just let us know, then we will have a
Okay,
sharing
right,
whenever it's
right.
suits you. Thank you so much.
All will happen according to his will.
Yes, yes. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. I thank all the devotees for being with us during this session. Thank you once again.